Number one since 1998 on television, ESPN Radio, and the World Wide Web, this is the Pro Wrestling Report with your hosts, the man they call Meathead, Frank Cosentino, and Damian Nelson. Professional wrestling news, opinion, and information from fans for fans.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report for Wednesday, June 24, 2009. Damian Nelson sitting here alongside not only the Cos,
yes,
who's back out of hiding, but Dave Hero. Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report.
Thank you for your absence.
Have you missed it?
Extremely. It's been a long time.
After that wild radio show this past Monday night and the refunded Raw.
$325,000 in ticket sales.
It reminds me of Jim Cornette back at International Incident 1996, where he guaranteed victory, or said he was going to refund all the money to all the people in General Motors Center, I believe, in Canada somewhere. But be that as it may, let's get to the big news story for this week, which is more discussion about the two big releases last week from World Wrestling Entertainment. The first of which, gentlemen, Candace Michelle released last Friday. As we all know, Candace had suffered from several injuries, the most recent being an injury in February of this past year, when she was drafted to SmackDown, yet never utilized on that brand.
Injury prone.
Very injury prone. And debuted in WWE in 2004 after participating in the Diva Search Contest, and is a former one-time women's champion. So, gentlemen, your thoughts on this release on top of the release of Umaga, Kennedy, and many others over the last few weeks?
I mean, for me, I guess with Candace Michelle being released, not overly surprised. They have so many divas to begin with, and she hasn't been on TV in forever. I don't think the fans are going to miss her as much as she thinks she's going to miss the fans.
well, we'll miss her here just a little bit more because she's from Milwaukee. But other than that, we wish her the best. But like you said, Dave, she was injury prone. She did kind of boost her career with the GoDaddy commercials, and then
That's what I'm going to miss.
And keep in mind, she's also the very first Diva Search contestant to win a title.
right. But you also made another good point. It's a wrestler that not many fans are going to miss.
Well, she wasn't a wrestler, though. She
Well,
got trained to wrestle after.
She got trained.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
more of an
she'll be
accurate
missed,
statement.
but you know, when you have like Melina, and you have Mickey James, and you have the Bella Girls, and you know, you have Beth Phoenix, and you know, Rosa. It's like there's so many. There
Right.
wouldn't be a spot for her anyhow right now.
Right, and you know she's eye candy for a lot of people. But you know, we wish her the best, and you know where she's going to end up if she wants to continue.
Was it
her career
pro? You never know.
This is the 5th anniversary.
It is the 5th, yeah. And coming back home to Milwaukee
there. There you go.
could be interesting.
Candace was one of those divas that I think some of the fans actually did care about when she was around. I certainly think she had a following in World Wrestling Entertainment, but do I think this is going to be a negative impact on the business? Absolutely not. The question is, what's next for Candace? She's got so many other things going on, currently living in Los Angeles. She's done, obviously, the GoDaddy spots, as you all referenced.
Playboy CoverGirl.
2006 was the year that she did that. And
some
she's
movies.
been in some picture
She's been in
films as
movies,
well.
yeah. She's done movies.
Those that you can find on Cinemax between Friday at midnight and Sunday at 6 a.m., I believe. But Candace gone. Now, the obligatory question, gentlemen, is, will Candace show up in another wrestling organization?
I don't think so. I think she may show up on the independent circuit for a little while, but I think there's opportunities out there for her, whether it's marketing of some sort, where she can take advantage of how she looks, and she looks great. She keeps in shape. She can do a lot of things. The world is open to her.
When you say shape, what do you mean exactly?
She's in good shape.
She's a fitness girl. I think she might show up in
This is how you know when Meathead's not here. Doesn't it feel good?
Yeah, it's
We're not arguing. We're having just normal discussion.
No dinging. Yeah, absolutely.
She could end up in TNA.
TNA loves to bring in everyone that leaves the WWE.
Well, not everyone, Dave.
Who haven't they brought in? Besides Sim Snuka, who haven't they brought in?
There was... no, actually...
Absolutely.
Well, think of someone before this.
Yeah, but why wouldn't they, though? I mean, we
Well,
talked about it
exactly.
last week right here on this very program, but why wouldn't they?
D'Lo Brown.
You get an opportunity to get some
D'Lo was
talent.
there.
Was
That-
he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's not only was he was more so backstage with TNA than he was on stage,
Okay.
but and remember he was back in WWE for
Right.
about a minute.
Yeah, that's about the time when Michael Hayes got in trouble too, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we're going to talk about TNA Slammiversary, specifically some of your comments on that pay-per-view, which just this past Sunday. But we saw the announcement of the Bound for Glory location, Los Angeles, and Bobby Lashley is back apparently in TNA because he's in the promo.
Yeah, he was just doing MMA, correct?
Yeah.
And
June 27th is when he said he's going to begin speaking to TNA again.
And I hadn't seen his match in MMA, but I heard that he did pretty well. I don't know who.
Well, he still has Bob Sapp on the on the radar. I'm sure they want to see how that goes too.
Right. But yeah, you've now put a promo. You better show up, otherwise it look pretty idiotic.
You know what though? TNA did the same thing with the Macho Man also.
Oh yeah.
That's a lot of money in him, and
Yeah.
he no showed a pay-per-view. Or did he show up? Or didn't do anything?
He showed up once.
Once.
Yeah, stood on the ramp basically is what he did. But
Kind of what Bobby Lashley does right now.
as you talked about, he did it twice though. As you talked about though, Snooka, the other big release or the other release from WWE, a person who was formerly Deuce of Deuce and Domino, former tag team title holder in World Wrestling Entertainment, obviously the son of Jimmy Superfly Snuka, gone, and not sure if this will matter in the course of things over the long term.
No, it's out of place at the moment. He was kind of kicked out of Randy Orton's stable, and then it was like, oh boy, now what are we going to do with this guy? This has a lot of potential if he's given the right character and the right push. He also has the passion for it. He's got the right blood in it to make it happen. But there's another guy that could easily end up in TNA at some point if they want him. But it's a guy that just fell out of place.
I mean, you got to figure for every Randy Orton, for every second or third star, there's always an Eric Watts, or there's a David San Martino.
Eric Watts, wow.
I mean, there's always they may have the bloodlines, but it doesn't mean that they're going to make it.
Exactly.
And Sim Snook, I mean, his dad was one of the greats. Great gimmick, the leap off the cage, Madison Square Garden, big shoes to fill for him.
Yeah.
Lots of comments from the fans and listeners and viewers all over the world, not only at pwrshow.com, but on our YouTube channel as well, so make sure you check those out to see what the fans think about this release. Most of them right along the lines of what you guys have said, which is really this will have no impact, and really contemplating whether or not TNA should even consider them.
Well,
Lance Cade. He's not in TNA.
No. Well,
You found one.
that's
Paul
one.
London. He's not in TNA.
Well, he had several tryouts, but he no showed. But I've heard that Lance Cade has been in talks with TNA about going there to reform with. What's his name now?
Trevor Murdoch, Jethro
Holiday. That's
Holiday.
it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, Lance Cade.
You said Wyatt Earp.
Lance Cade, great big guy, great talent, but he'll be. I was told, don't be surprised if he shows up back on Monday or Friday. He's a Shawn Michaels trainee, one of Shawn Michaels' guys.
Yeah.
He's just being punished for being stupid.
Way to sum it up, Dave Hero. Let's go now to the PWR news desk. First news item is B. Brian Blair, formerly of the Killer Bees in WWE, was arrested for child abuse on Father's Day after attacking his 14 and 12-year-old sons. He says that it is nothing more than a big misunderstanding. However, this news story broken by the authorities in Hillsborough County, where he is the former commissioner of that county. Gerald Briscoe suffered a series of strokes last week. It is also found that he's got a pretty serious heart condition. Briscoe said to be doing better and in high spirits, and of course our thoughts and wishes go out to the Briscoe family at this point. Raka Khan and Jacqueline both worked TNA house shows over the weekend. Rumor had it that Raka Khan had been released from the company. Clearly, that not the case, as she did wrestle over the course of some house shows this past weekend. Ring of Honor's Bryan Danielson is currently suffering from a staph infection and missed the most recent Ring of Honor television tapings and will be off of the next few house shows as well. World Wrestling Entertainment could have some troubles with the Securities Exchange Commission because of their press release indicating that Donald Trump had purchased WWE Raw. There are some who believe that affected the WWE stock price, which dropped 6% the day after that announcement was made. Last week's ratings, Raw gets a 3.9 rating, SmackDown with a 1.8, TNA with a 1.2, and ECW with a 1.1, and Superstars with a 0.9. PWRshow.com poll results for last week showed that you thought SmackDown was the best show, with 39% of the votes, followed by TNA Impact with 28% of the votes, and Raw with 27% of the votes. And now it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for Interactive. PWR Interactive, you've got the opportunity to email us by sending an email to comments at pwrshow.com, posting comments on our YouTube channel. And we're going to talk about Slammiversary in just a minute. But first, let's get to a couple of emails that came across last week. This one from Sam Sabiri, who says, question, what is the best feud that is going on in WWE right now?
Wow. I mean, it's really
When you have to think about this stuff, it really puts it in perspective.
You know, you got Triple H and Randy Orton going on. You know what? I think the best feud going on is Rey Mysterio and Chris Jericho. Because I think both guys are going to put in solid matches.
Is it because it's the first time Ray will have lost his mask?
No, I don't think he's going to lose his mask. But it's something different. I mean, it's a match that hasn't been beaten to death.
Here's a question as it pertains to that. We'll get to your answer in a minute, Frank. Let's say Rey Mysterio does indeed take an option to leave the company. Can they force him to lose his mask?
I don't think they can.
He lost his mask in WCW. For those that don't remember, it was a decision he didn't agree with.
Money out of.
Obviously got paid.
And keep in mind, the next night on Nitro, who did he beat? Kevin Nash.
Right.
Pinned him. Not that, people, know that off the top of their head, but I mean, at the time, okay, you're going to get like $500,000 to lose your mask, then you're going to, beat clean Kevin Nash.
But he still didn't agree with the decision or didn't like the decision at the time, but went along with it, which is the question. Let's say he gives WWE his notice. They obviously want to keep Jericho strong. Jericho takes the mask. Will Ray do it?
Well, if he doesn't
Can they force him to?
Well, the only way they can force him to do it is if Jericho rips the mask off his head.
Maybe they can do that in Montreal. Maybe they can do it at
they'll call
Survivor
Series. Or they'll
Series.
call the Iron Sheik and have him break his leg.
For $100,000?
$100,000.
But he won't actually break
But
his
he won't
leg.
actually, no, of course not.
Frank, best feud right now in WWE.
The best feud. I can't argue with what you picked, Dave, but I guess I'm going to have to say it's with Randy Orton and Triple H. I mean, it's not. I can honestly say there's not a best feud right now. These feuds aren't lasting long enough to say this is really good, due to a lot of injuries. But I'd have to say that one is the best in
The most
quotes.
drama, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Randy Orton fan, and so far everything he's been in lately has been pretty good until something happens to the other guy. And in this case with Triple H, it's someone that at least, will get the crowd going either way, and that's what makes it the best. But it's with an asterisk.
How long until the crowd turns on Triple H is what I want to know. When they're going to get behind Randy Orton, because it always happens,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to start to cheer Orton and boo Triple H.
But that's the question that we're all kind of asking, is that going to happen? And do you want Randy Orton
Well, I think it's
to-
happening a little now. You hear Orton getting a lot of cheers. It's not as distinct as John Cena's cheers and boos, I don't think, but I think you hear a lot of fans. Orton is an easy character to like and to relate to, I believe, because A, he plays it so well, and B, I mean, he's just a prick as far as his character goes. And rumor has it that maybe his character isn't too far from his real being, and I don't subscribe to that. But I mean, this is a guy, as Roddy Piper always said, the guy you love to hate.
And they should roll with it as long as they can. Eventually, though, the fans will dictate on where it's going to go. And I don't know how long it'll take, or even Randy Orton says, you know what, now let's just keep this going, it's fine. You're going to have a top heel somewhere, and he plays that role perfectly. But I think eventually the fans may do the little, hey, let's start to cheer this guy, and then maybe those RKOs are put in a different spot instead of when you really want it, and then all the heck is going to break loose.
Well, I would say that the best feud going on in WWE right now is between Batista and Boredom.
Nice.
This
I'll
is
take
from,
Pick a guy when he's down. Nice.
well, give him a week, he'll be down again. Brian K., Brian with a Y, sends this in. Thought it was interesting, especially reference to last week's episode, especially about the point that WWE keeps recycling their feuds. Question I want to answer is, why don't they just start the Jericho versus Edge feud now, even though I know it had been done before, but not in the sense that both wrestlers are at the top of the company? Jericho Edge feud.
I wouldn't mind it. Why aren't they doing it? I have no clue.
Well, there's no
And-
belt involved except for the IC title.
That's true.
And your initial reaction was, boy, why? Because we've been there, done that.
We've been
You
there,
know,
done
and
that.
you can look at almost any character right now, with the exception of the John Morrisons of the world, almost any feud they can come up with, been there, done that, which is to the point we made last week on this program, is the fans just don't care anymore. And we had this conversation by phone. Fans just don't care as much as they used to about professional wrestling.
Or the marketing people at, or the marketing wrestling people at WWE think, okay, it's been 6 months, there's a new crop of fans, maybe they don't remember this.
Oh, it's the same group of fans.
And that's the issue.
It's the
It
same
is the
fans.
same group, and in that case, the product could get stale. That has been done many times in the past. There would have to be some different type of gimmick added to it to maybe make it fresh, and I couldn't tell you what.
It's the
it
two
would be.
top heels on SmackDown. And they need, and right now they need more top heels, and they're not going to have those two guys battle each other, especially over the IC title. Has to mean more.
Chad McGee sends this in. He says, you say that PWRshow.com pays you back for being on the site. I was just wondering how that works. Basically, it's the PWR Rewards program. So when you go to PWRshow.com, become a registered user of that site. Every time you take action on the site, you score points. And at the end of the calendar month, whoever has the most points gets a cash reward. So that all that information obviously is available at PWRshow.com. Gentlemen, this past Sunday night, TNA presented a pay-per-view called Slammiversary. It was the 7th year of TNA Wrestling, the 7-year birthday party, if you will, from the Palace of Auburn Hills in Detroit, Michigan. I will sum it up as this. Mick Foley entertains again. Don West, in my opinion, takes a step back from his excellent role at TNA Sacrifice. Titles change hands, a lot of guests, commentators specifically, obvious booking, solid work, betrayal, and a new world heavyweight champion in Kurt Angle.
Finally.
Slammiversary, I thought, was a good pay-per-view. I'm waiting. I haven't seen it yet. I'm very surprised because it's been 24 hours as of this taping, about how all the IWC reporters out there are going to speculate as to how many free tickets were given away for Slammiversary, because they had a respectable crowd of at least, I would say, 7,000 to 8,000 guests in the Palace of Auburn Hills. Looked like they had the whole lower bowl full.
At least half of that was comp.
And ultimately, doesn't matter. From a business standpoint, it certainly matters. But we do know that they had the promotion for $7 tickets. Those fans, once they arrived, were automatically upgraded to better seats in the lower bowl, which is the same thing a lot of companies do. So WWE has done it, WCW has done it. So it's not a knock on TNA. But gentlemen, the new champion is Kurt Angle. New tag team champions, Beer Money Incorporated. Suicide retains the X Division title, and Angelina Love retains the Knockouts Championship. Your thoughts on Slammiversary from what you know about it?
Wasn't bad. I agree with you right off the bat with Mick Foley, entertaining. Did what he was brought on
I've got
to do.
the world title in my hands.
That was his job. That was what he was brought into. Add a little comedic relief, but in that times also add the crazy Mick Foley. It all kind of fit, and it did work for this pay-per-view. All the other matches I thought were average, nothing special. But again, TNA's just doing what they need to do to make it look, that bowl, make it look as full as possible, get in some talent where people would watch. And I think they put together, so far, their best pay-per-view of the year.
For me,
So
what
far,
more surprising is that TNA brings in a former WWE star, Victoria, and doesn't let that star beat their current champion.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a letdown. But I am a big mark for Angelina Love.
That's fine. But I'm just saying.
I think I'm the only one on this program
It's the
who is.
first time TNA though has ever done that. They bring in Kurt Angle, put the belt on him. Bring in Christian, put the belt on him. Bring in Rhino, put the belt on him. Raven, put the belt on him. Bring in Victoria.
Let her, and I
Yeah.
guess they're letting her climb the mountain, I guess. And try to get
That's
it.
where you do your
I know,
thing.
I know. But it was, that was a little bit odd based on their previous history, but I think eventually they'll.
Well, it's also better for Victoria to chase the heel than actually be the champ off the bat. Otherwise you got Victoria versus Kong. I'm sure they want to save that one for down the road.
Exactly.
Don West, obviously channeling Bobby the Brain Heenan, if you've heard his work over the last 2 months. He's doing a great job with it. He's fast becoming one of the best color commentators in the business right now, okay? Let me make that point very clear, right now. But I think he took a step back this time. he shouldn't be laughing at his own stuff. And he
There's
laughs
the
at his own
key.
stuff.
Yeah, you can't do that.
And today, I'm not sure today plays off of him good enough either. And that was what was so great about Heenan and Monsoon. They played off of each other perfectly. Ventura, McMahon played off of each other perfectly. JR, the King, played off of each other purposely. I'll even go as far as to say Michael Cole and JBL played off of each other perfectly. We're missing a little bit of a connection there between those two. And keep in mind, folks, it takes time. Yes, they've been working for 7 years, but Don West completely turned his style over, and it's going to take time for them to get to the point where they can seamlessly flow.
But also at the same time, JR and the King worked every Monday night
Yeah,
together.
very good point.
TNA, you get 3 shows within 2 days. It's kind of hard to build anything.
There's no rapport there.
Once a
It's an
month.
excellent point.
It's that chemistry and the ad-libbing that Heenan and Monsoon did, during a match. I know they had their little spots where, okay, this is where you say this, but I think the non-scripted stuff, that just comes with time.
Well, and you know what, though? I mean, it happens to us on this program, because we try to be entertaining as well. It's a lot of times you get a comment that'll catch you off guard, and you don't quite know how to react to it. And I can imagine that happens in a live event environment as well. So I'm not sure Tanae's always ready for the stuff West is going to throw out there, and vice versa. I'm not sure West is ready for things. But he started off so great. And remember, Sacrifice, all of a sudden it's like somebody opened up this can of Bobby Heenanisms and poured them all over.
When you brought that up, maybe there was someone that said, you know what? Why don't you go onto YouTube and watch one of the best do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, why wouldn't you? That's part of what you do. I'm not sure. I think West is passionate about the product, but let's not forget, Don West did not come from a wrestling background.
Exactly. I just want to say he's not a wrestling guy. Everyone else you mentioned, they've been in it for a long, long time.
And so that's why maybe they like Adam Lee as an example didn't work.
You know what? I didn't think Adam Lee was
Bum,
that
bum,
bad.
bum, bum. What?
You know what?
You said what?
I'm serious. I mean, I thought he played his
Wait.
part as a stooge.
ECW
perfect.
commentator? Not that bad?
Yeah, he was bad. I loved him as the GM.
Okay, GM,
The
I'll give
GM,
you
I
that.
thought he was great.
There was some potential in that character as general manager, as long as he had his notes on his clipboard.
Yes.
Samoa Joe turns on the front line basically, aligns himself with Kurt Angle, thus allowing a now hairy Kurt Angle to win the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. Not expected was this turn in the main event.
No, but again, here's a guy that he is championship material. Kurt Angle is a champion. He knows how to play that role. He knows how to work the crowd, and it fits right now what TNA is looking for. How long? Again, I had injuries to it, but for the most part, this is a guy that can hold a championship for a while, and it kind of
He's
makes,
believable. He's a believable world
Exactly.
champion.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of believable, I, for one, was very entertained by Mick Foley saying how he wouldn't defend the title but once a year. And then at Slammiversary, actually talking to JB in the back, saying, well, JB, it's going to be about, or JB said it's going to be about 6 months before he defends the title at Bound for Glory. And Foley corrected him and said, no, I'm talking about Bound for Glory 2010. Just good stuff. But it was so ridiculous, it was entertaining, but unbelievable at the same time. So that's why I said last week on this very program that you knew somebody was walking out with the strap. I did not know or even speculate that it would happen the way it did, which actually turned out very well. But give props to Foley and AJ Styles specifically in that matchup. Mick Foley with the elbow off the phone booth, as Meathead called it, but the cage, the penalty box outside the ring, and AJ Styles, I mean, wow. Again, phenomenal. Again, putting his, taking no consideration for his own personal well-being in this matchup. A good main event, much better than it should have been, and I thought it was actually better than the X Division King of the Mountain matchup.
Well, I think if TNA is smart, now they have Sting as the guy in charge of the Mafia, and Kurt Angle now as the world champion. If they play their cards right, they could probably swing this out and have Kurt Angle versus Sting at Bound for Glory. Their biggest pay-per-view to see who does take control of the Mafia, if the Mafia is even still around by then. Because now with Samoa Joe with the Mafia, that takes him out of any title hunt. You know, I just can't imagine another Samoa Joe Kurt Angle match anytime soon.
No, that wouldn't fit. But the script now does make sense for Bound for Glory if it goes that way. And I think it would be foolish for them not to keep the Mafia angle going, at least till
These are the
Bound
only
for Glory.
guys that the casual fans recognize on TV, besides Mick Foley.
Right.
Well, Kurt Angle was almost not recognizable. As I said, Harry earlier, he's got a
Yeah.
beard and hair now. So,
Looks different.
Girl game?
Actually, he was doing a promo in the back. I stepped away from the TV for a moment. I came back. I'm like, who is that? Looks a little like Frank Trigg, but oh, that's Kurt
They
Angle.
look identical. Him and
Yeah.
Frank Trigg.
Let's go to some of your comments posted on our YouTube channel, Reference Slammiversary. Edmund Switch says, TNA messed up big time. I hope they go out of business for this crap. Kurt Angle's time has come and gone.
He's the best wrestler in the company. I mean, who else do you put the belt on that's believable?
Dagmus, username, says, Kurt Angle is a solid champion and an amazing swerve by Samoa Joe. I hope TNA goes from strength to strength. Well done for a great pay-per-view. Continuing along in the comments, BW1.com says, sounds like this was an okay pay-per-view. I did not get a chance to see it. I'm not sure on the whole Kurt Angle Joe thing. So I'm guessing they're doing the reverse with Sting and Angle, where now Angle is the champ and Sting is the Godfather. Kind of weird and confusing, I would say.
Yeah, you miss a TNA. You actually miss a little bit of. Wait, that didn't make sense. You got to go back and watch.
You gotta watch
Right.
it, and you gotta listen closely
Just
because
to
they
show us
explain
some
things, and,
overbooked.
and a lot of times, exactly, a lot of times the rules sort of twist and turn throughout the match. Like when Jay Lethal, all of Jay Lethal, Creed, I think it was, and one of the Motor City Machine Guns pinned Suicide, I believe it was, in the X Division match. And then it was like, well, who gets the credit for that? Who becomes eligible? Blah, 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 blah. And the explanation was it would be Lethal for whatever reason. But King Lanky 93 says, so I guess TNA is going to be the Kurt Angle show again. Just when they got me back to watching again.
Total non-stop Angle.
There you go.
Caesar Mania X says, great for TNA to swerve us that way. I never thought that would ever happen.
I was surprised by the Samoa Joe thing. I didn't see that
I was so
coming.
pleased it wasn't Taz. You
Yeah.
know? That would have just been, heartbreaking.
Rack Moores says, Slammiversary was a great pay-per-view, one of the best so far. Hail TNA. Defar786 says, it was predictable that Angle would win. First, they had him on WRAF, which is a radio station in Michigan. It was so predictable, and yes, I live in Michigan. That all is sort of obvious. Master of Metal 15 says, Slammiversary was awesome, way better than expected, and totally worth it. And Forsake in Guitarist 90 says, Slammiversary was unbelievable. 4 exclamation points. I definitely felt it was the pay-per-view of the year thus far.
Wow.
Even better than WrestleMania.
Wow.
Laxi1015 says, I was only ticked about the Suicide win. I wanted Saban to get it, but finally Foley is no longer champion. These past couple of months have been embarrassing, but I loved it. To that point, Detroit obviously wanted the Motor City Machine Guns to win that matchup, and it looked like it was going to go that way in a while. Alex Shelley really standing out in that matchup in the X Division King of the Mountain match. Alex Shelley, again, I look back to when he had the Shelley cam at ringside and was doing all that goofy stuff, now to becoming, or at least being presented as the great wrestler that he is. It's really a good journey for him. And again, I was surprised that Suicide walked out of that match with the X Division strap still. Team 3D all night long, they talked about how they weren't there yet. They weren't there yet. They weren't there yet because they were in Osaka, Japan. Don West says he's done that trip 26 times and there's no jet lag. And then actually saying, what do you mean they're tired? They were on a plane sleeping for 17 hours. Good stuff, good stuff. But they finally arrived. I thought it was leading towards they're going to be so tired. That'll be the way they push it, is that's why they lost the belts, because they were wrestling in Osaka the night before and blah, 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 blah. But a good match, ruined by the interference by the British invasion, but a good match overall. With the importance that they gave that match, to have outside interference doesn't make any sense to me.
It protects Team 3D because they didn't want to put over Beer Money clean. That's what it comes down to. And what a shame, because Beer Money is perhaps the most talented team in wrestling,
Mhm.
but egos get involved. Lay down for the guys.
Yeah.
Do what's right for business.
And I am not fans of Team 3D at all. I think their time has come and gone. And for them, the whole Angle thing didn't fit. And
You like British Invasion, don't you? That's your team.
that could be. Could be. I haven't thought about it enough yet.
I'm becoming a fan. They got to get rid of Rob Terry. I don't know the last time I've seen someone so awkward in the ring
Just
or
stands there,
doing it.
has
Yeah.
no clue what he's doing.
I got muscles.
Can't drop an elbow. Can't do anything right. Yeah, that guy.
We want to make sure you guys follow us on Twitter. Frank, do you tweet?
No, not really.
PWR show. Twitter.com/PWR show. And also make sure
But
you
I
check out this
could.
past Monday's edition of the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, available right here on PWRshow.com. We'll be back with you with a brand new episode again next week. So, for the man they call Meathead, the Kaz, and Dave Hero, Thank you so much for tuning in to the Pro Wrestling Report. We'll see you again in 1 week's time.
PWRshow.com. Log on and win cash.